So I've always had like a terrible learning curve with technology, um, video games, anything that's like new. Um, it takes me longer than other people, than I would say most people, to learn how to do that type of thing. I didn't learn how to type until I was 25. I don't do like mechanical things good. Certain part of my brain that is used in most people's brain for math and certain types of, I guess, logical, critical thinking, um, for whatever reason, may have been damaged or just never, um, I don't know, flourished. However, I don't really think it's damaged per se because it's known as sort of skip generations in families where, for example, my grandfather on my mother's side of the family was very good at math, had an extremely high IQ at 4 PhDs. It was very like logical kind of thinking. Where my mom couldn't do algebra, and we both basically can do about multiplication, addition. Same thing with my dad. Was very bad at math, um, numbers, that sort of thing. Good at measuring stuff, but not good like with managing money and that sort of thing. Um, and I just find like I tried to get the feel of something today, and people just kind of assume that just like with technology, the same thing with the apps that you're just gonna pick something up right away and learn it, and that's the strange thing I feel like. About getting a little older. I mean, I guess, if you don't grow up with electric vehicles and apps and smartphones, and you look at someone who's now 25 years old who their entire life, they've had like the internet, that's kind of even hard for me to imagine. Um, it's much quicker for them to adopt this new technology. Their learning curve is much faster than folks my age, but I just know that I'm one of those people, like, it takes me a couple times to like read the instruction book and learn something. It's just how I am with certain things. Um, like names, not good with names. Faces, I have a near perfect photographic memory for somebody's face. Um, I I can do pretty good with mimicking languages and learning languages and writing and reading and things having to do with literature, that sort of thing. I never particularly excelled too much in any one thing because I had too many interests and not the kind of inclination to be receptive to being encouraged to do any one particular thing forcibly, um, if that makes any sense. Although discipline um, is something that I've found to be of um, the utmost importance, in that it's something that's essential and cannot be compromised. And my dad kept telling me, "You got to draw from real life, Ollie. You got to draw from real life because um, my ability to render has deteriorated over time along with my nerve damage." Um, and in order to make the caliber of art like that, like my dad made, you really have to know how to draw. And it's just it's very hard for me to explain what it was like growing up as a kid, when I realized how magnificent an artist my father was, and I just couldn't hold a candle to what he was doing. And my mom too, and they're like, "Well, we went to art school, and they taught art, and yet my brother and I never could quite achieve that level of skill, no matter how hard we tried. And people would say, well, it's just not in you. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. It's just that everyone has a different calling. And my dad used to say, well, Ollie, you have to have a reason to make a painting. And the few times where there was some glimpse of happiness, I made some of these unfinished paintings here. Um, on my dad's good days when we would have a little time to enjoy life in between constantly having to struggle and going to the hospital, I would try to paint, and this was the last thing I showed him, which I ended up screwing up shortly after he died, but so the last things I showed him that I painted, which I kept painting over and over and over again, and I just, I have to share that I struggle with this responsibility to finish the Red Runner triptych over here, and the need to make money. Time, you can't get back your time, and these were works right here. This is a triptych that my father had in the studio, and kept asking me, Ollie, just go and grab that one, and I want you to help me on this one, and so there's that, and then there's this massive outdoor sculpture, which we were going to build with Keith. Keith was going to weld it, actually. And so I feel like, this is something that, it's funny. I had such an interesting enlightenment and an enlightening conversation today with a very successful businessman, and he would say, my father would say the same thing that he told me. He says, you got to get yourself out there to the art openings. You got to network with people. It's not who you know. It's not what you know. It's who you know, and you got to find the people out there that are not necessarily going for the blue chip, the famous stuff, the stuff that really looks good. And they will pay top dollar for it, and they will be the kind of people that you meet at like these events and shows. Like, go put a suit on, go there and network with these people, because there's just only so much advertising and social media that you can pay for and do. And the art world is such that unless you have a secondary market, unless you have sold before and are famous, nobody assigns a value to your art. And I have the sad legacy of memories of my father saying to me, I made all these films, Ollie, that nobody's ever seen before. Films, like reels and films like this, I have to convert. And he would try to go downtown and network and do just that. We would even go to openings together, my dad, when he was strong enough. And we would meet famous people, and I would have this really bad taste in my mouth after meeting and mingling with what accounts to a bunch of snobby people who are full of shit, who are not going to buy the art anyway. And it was kind of like, you can only do that in small doses unless you're getting paid for it. And I would tolerate that in the corporate world all day, and then have to kind of do that after work, on a Thursday when all the openings were. It was exhausting, and yielded so little sales because I just never felt, like the same thing when I went on. Well, I digress, but I had tried. as a young man to break into, having gone to, let's put it this way, having gone to, or whether or not I necessarily, yes, I think I was invited to a supermodel party in Paris, and it was all supermodels, mostly women, and their agents. And I said, oh, that's a job for me. And I just, I tried to get into that and just couldn't. I just had too much pride and dignity to myself to stand up to sexual harassment. I was sexually harassed, and I wasn't, as a young man, as I would say, tolerant of sexual harassment, as I am now in a lot of ways, because I think at the time, and then that I mean, but it's like the Hollywood is filled with terrible people who are the ones who are like the shot callers, who get the actors the roles, so to speak. And the art world has got this thing called the secondary market, and carte de resonance, and it's like a reputation based thing for people who can't understand art or what they're looking at. Don't appreciate art; they just look at it as an investment, and so that makes it an extremely difficult um, market. If you're not famous, like look at. I mean, and not to knock Basquiat or Andy Warhol or any of these major pop artists, or Damien Hirst, or any of these super, or Cause, or any of these super wealthy, successful artists. It's just like it's sort of like bubblegum. If everybody gets to know the flavor and sees the wrapper and the taste and they eat it, the more people are going to say, "Oh, that's great. I liked it." And it's kind of the same when you force feed things to people by marketing them through certain channels and networks, like with celebrities. Um, so anyway, this is a sculpture to scale, as you can see. So two people standing there, and it's supposed to be made out of mass of aluminum. So hope you enjoyed me sharing my mental health vlog about what's on my mind, what's going on. I gotta up my hustle. I gotta focus on owning more businesses and doing the Instagram and all that shit. And I'm also torn between wanting to go outside, farm, and start growing all the things that I want to grow without having to worry about pirates, and continue doing the maintenance here on the house. So I'm very overwhelmed, and there are many moments where I find myself feeling extremely overwhelmed with worrying about how the fuck I'm gonna make enough money just to pay for basic shit that you need, like electricity. It's not a fun game where my life has become that. Like I guess for some folks, they're like my age, they have a fucking pension, their shit's paid off, and they enjoy life, because they have a beautiful place like this they decided to rent out. And instead of my brother cooperating with me, now I have to go back to the court and say, look, you got to remove him as the co-administrator because he's not cooperating with me and opening up an estate account or doing any maintenance or any of that here, while I pay for everything and pay for the storage of his stuff and try to arrange the sale of art. So, it's a darn shame, but had an interesting day today. I also had a fantastic conversation with another extraordinary gentleman who ran radar in the Air Force and tracked the plane of the President of the United States and spoke to me about our mutual fascination with UFOs and how classified information is really not shared unless it's on a need-to-know basis, and how it could be very possible when you are pulling a lot of G's that you might, in theory, see things that don't exist, but then there is radar and forward-looking infrared radar. So, and then you wonder, well, how come, if these things, how come it's such an infrequency that they choose to reveal themselves to human beings? And you got to say to yourself, well, because they are self-aware and they are aware of themselves being observed. It's the only explanation for something that's of a higher intelligence than human beings. And what an interesting conversation I had. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for subscribing. Y'all know who you are, and I can't wait to talk to you again in depth. Please put a comment, because you'll know I'm talking about you without even mentioning your name. Thank you.